These revelations in the last hour by police who've been investigating events at the Countess of Chester Hospital. You'll remember, of course, this is where we did see the multiple deaths of young babies and the conviction of nurse Lucy Letby in that baby unit. She was convicted of murder of 7 babies and the attempted murder of 7 other babies while she was working at the Countess of Chester Hospital between 2015 and 2016. New development today: 3 members of the senior leadership team at the hospital where she worked at that time have now been arrested on suspicion of gross negligence manslaughter. They have not been named. But let's talk about this with former Metropolitan Police Detective Chief Inspector Mike Neville, who joins us to explain this particular story. Very good afternoon to you, Mike.
Good afternoon, Julia.
A very interesting development here. Now, I'll just explain there, because this investigation has been sort of quite separate to the investigation that was into Lucy Letby and the crimes that she is convicted, and many people querying her guilt or innocence, but she was convicted in a court of law by, in fact, 2 different trials by 2 different juries of these crimes. But this is a separate investigation. Explain what it's all about.
What this amounts to with the gross negligence manslaughter is that they didn't show enough care. You know, the care given to those children was so bad by those individuals who had a duty to do that, that they can be prosecuted for potentially causing their deaths. And at the same time, you have a corporate manslaughter investigation, which has been running for about 18 months into the same hospital. And so you've got those 2 parallel investigations going on where other people could be found responsible for the deaths of the children.
Now, there's been a massive big campaign to free Lucy Letby, for have her an appeal, to argue that she has been the victim of a terrible miscarriage of justice, and actually there were problems at this neonatal unit. They're nothing to do with her. She's been convicted on circumstantial evidence. She's not a guilty woman. But the detective superintendent Paul Hughes, who's the senior investigating officer of this Operation Jewett, he made it very clear. He said it is important to note this does not impact on the convictions of Lucy Letby for multiple offences of murder and attempted murder. Can you explain why he said that and what that implication of that is?
Well, the thing is emphasising that the convictions still stand, and he probably knows a lot more about this case than I do. But one of my take on this is that this will just increase the shouts for an appeal here, because Lucy Letby applied to the Criminal Case Review Commission and was refused. And since that time, one of the key prosecution witnesses, Dr. Evans, has gone back on his story and basically said, I now believe that she's not responsible for the deaths. And we had a Canadian paediatrician expert and a panel of about 14 absolutely eminent paediatricians from across the world saying, we don't believe that she's guilty of these crimes. So I think
they're saying some circumstantial evidence. There's quite a few things. There's been some changing of some of the evidence presented appears to sort of been contradicted by internal emails. But a lot of the criticism that came out during this very long trial and in the subsequent reports has been of the management. So we had, the consultants in the unit who were concerned. They believed that Lucy Letby was responsible for these babies' deaths. That they when they went to management with concerns, they were just told, no, nothing, no, sod off. And then at one point, even forced to write a letter of apology to Lucy Letby. The fact that there was this heightened, massive increase in the number of babies that were dying in this unit, from whatever cause, there was no investigation into that. There was no effort to tackle it and no effort to sort of deal with this issue. That's more what this is in relation to. So it doesn't actually have a bearing on her guilt or innocence. Those are completely separate issues. It's their failure to take action when clearly babies were dying or almost dying and they failed to act.
Absolutely. This is the current investigation. It will look at, as I say, the duty of care given by those 3 senior managers, which seems to have been, the management of that unit seems to be absolutely appalling. But it can only, as I suggest, increase the clamour that Lucy Letby is given an appeal. I think the 2 things will always be, or the 3 things, if you look at the corporate manslaughter investigation, the three things will always be intrinsically linked together.
But again, and they are linked in the sense of whatever, again, there's court of law, a jury, made those decisions, but two juries indeed, one of the baby's cases. But actually, at the end of the day, the problem we've got is institutional failure a lot of the time, a failure of management, and we've seen this again and again in every area of life, not just in neonatal unit, the NHS, where institutions, senior figures, and Frank, although these people haven't been named, following the trial as I did, I could probably guess who the three people were, and as a lot of people could, is that actually this urge to cover things up, to protect the reputation of an organisation and an institution, to not make them look bad, that seems to be the number one priority every time, over the safety of newborn babies or children being groomed by gangs or anything else.
So it's shocking, isn't it? Throughout the public sector, things seem to have just completely lost their focus. Yep. The NHS should be there to look after us, to care for us. The police should be there to catch criminals and make sure we're safe. The passport office should be there to issue passports or whatever. Yeah. But all through these organisations, you have these terrible failings. And of course, the worst thing when you get to things like the NHS and the police is that they're dealing with people's lives. And it's these wicked failings, they end up in, we've had 7 babies died. There are 7 babies who nearly died, and managers whose focus was not on those babies' lives, was not on those babies' care, it was elsewhere. And it's truly shocking.
Absolutely.
And let's hope this investigation tells us the truth of what's been going on at that hospital.
Well, indeed. Mike Neville, former Metropolitan Police Detective Chief Inspector, thank you very much. Brief response from Tom Slater, editor of Spiked Online, listening to that.
I just think it's worth saying that these babies didn't die, they were murdered. And this is as a result of a long-running court case in which there was plenty of evidence. And just very quickly on that point about the expert Dr. Dowie Evans, who was so crucial to the conviction of Lucy Letby. The claim that he has changed his mind about the deaths of certain babies is something he's very firmly pushed back upon. It's a claim that is being made on the behalf of Lucy Letby's appeal, but it's one that he quite firmly rejects. So but it's a reminder, isn't it, that this debate is going to run and run.
Oh, it is. It is. Thank you very much. More from Tom Slater.